Have you ever wondered why we fall for certain people?
Hmm.
Like really fall for them? What is that magnetic pull, that connection you feel, especially right at the beginning? Well, what if I told you that intense feeling might not actually be about the other person entirely? What if it's reflecting something much deeper inside you? Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, he had this really surprising take on it. He believed we often fall in love, not really with the person themselves, but with a projection, a reflection of our own unconscious stuff, needs, desires, things we haven't dealt with. So today, in this deep dive, we're going to unpack that. What did Jung actually mean by projection in love? We'll look at the risks, of this maybe illusory kind of love. And importantly, how we can maybe move past it towards a real conscious connection. We've been looking at some great research notes and a podcast script by Suresh Gami based on a YouTube video exploring these Jungian ideas. It'd be interesting. Okay, so let's unpack this idea then. Psychological projection. What does Jungian actually mean by that when we're talking about falling in love? It sounds a bit, clinical.
Yeah, it can sound that way, but it's actually very human. Basically, psychological projection is this unconscious thing we do. We take our own feelings, maybe needs we aren't aware of or desires, and we sort of assign them to someone else. So in love, it means you might feel intensely drawn to someone, right? But it's not just about them. It's because they seem to symbolize something or they reflect back something you feel you're missing inside. They seem to complete you,
Ah, okay. Like they fill a gap.
Exactly. So think about it. Maybe you grew up in a kind of chaotic environment and what you really, really crave is emotional security. Deep down, you might find yourself super attracted to someone who just seems really calm, very grounded. And unconsciously, you're seeing them as the embodiment of that security you desperately want.
Right. Not just liking their calm personality, but seeing them as security itself.
Precisely. It's not just who they are, but what they represent to you, mirroring what you feel you lack. Jung had this great way of putting it. Essentially, you become a mirror to their inner world. You see your own needs reflected in them.
Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. It's like our own hidden stuff wearing someone else's face for a bit.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit tricky, right? If we're falling for a mirror image, this idealized version, what are the risks? What happens with this illusion of love?
Yeah, this is the core issue. The biggest risk is that the love, the affection, it isn't really for the actual person. It's for this idea you have of them, this perfected version that exists more in your head. That's the illusion.
And illusions. They don't usually last, do they?
Exactly. Reality always finds a way in. So when the real person, starts acting in ways that don't fit your perfect picture, maybe they aren't always calm, or they show their own insecurities, their own flaws.
Which everyone has.
Which everyone absolutely has. That's when the disillusionment can hit, and hit hard. It explains why some relationships start incredibly intense, like fireworks, super fast, but then they just fizzle out just as quickly once the real people start showing up, and the projection can't hold anymore. The magic disappears.
Oof. Yeah, I think we've all seen or maybe even experienced that initial intensity setting us up for a fall. So if that's often how it starts, how do we get past that, past the projections, past the potential crash? What does this all mean for finding, real lasting connection, something genuine?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And the Jungian perspective offers a really hopeful path, actually. It suggests that true love, real connection, it actually begins after the projections start to fade.
After. Not before.
Right. It starts when both people can finally see each other clearly, like really see each other, the good, the bad, the messy bits, all of it, without filtering it through their own unconscious needs or those idealized fantasies.
Okay. So seeing the real person.
Seeing the real person. And that takes work. It requires quite a bit of self-awareness from both partners. It takes emotional maturity, definitely, and a real willingness to, grow consciously, both as individuals and together as a couple. There's this great line from Jungian psychology that really captures it. Real love begins where projection ends.
Real love begins where projection ends.
Wow. That really flips the script on how we usually think about falling in love, doesn't it? It suggests the real work starts later than we think. So, okay, for you listening right now, how can you actually use this? How can you apply this insight in your own life, your own relationships? What are the practical steps?
Great question. Moving from that unconscious projection to a more conscious connection, well, there are a few key things you can focus on. First, and maybe most importantly, is just awareness. Really start to acknowledge that projection happens. It's a powerful force, probably in all your relationships to some degree. Start noticing patterns. What qualities do you find yourself drawn to again and again in partners or even close friends?
Like the type you always go for. Exactly. Often those repeated qualities are signposts. They might point to strengths you need to develop in yourself, or maybe shadow aspects you're avoiding. Second, encourage honest talk. This can be tough, but so valuable, maybe with trusted friends, but especially with a partner, if you feel safe doing so. Talk openly about what drew you to each other initially. What ideal qualities did you maybe project onto each other back then? And how has that view changed as you've gotten to know the real person?
That sounds potentially vulnerable.
It is. It's not about blame, though. It's about understanding the journey of your connection, seeing how it's evolved. Third is prioritizing personal growth, your own healing journey. When you start recognizing, okay, I think I project my need for X onto others, focus on how you can cultivate X within yourself. This reduces that kind of emotional dependency where you need someone else to be your security or your confidence or whatever it is. It moves you towards feeling more whole on your own.
Making yourself whole rather than looking for someone else to do it.
Spot on. And finally, strive for real connection. This means making a conscious choice, day after day. Choose to appreciate your partner for who they actually are. Their unique personality, their quirks, yes, their strengths, but also their flaws and vulnerabilities. Love the whole, real person, not just how they make you feel or what they symbolize for your own inner world. And maybe, to help you reflect on this personally, you could ask yourself a few questions like, what specific qualities do I seem to consistently look for in the people I get close to?
Okay.
And then, do I feel like these are qualities I'm maybe missing or wish I had more of within myself? Or flip it. Has anyone ever seemed to idealize me, put me on a pedestal in a way that felt, well, unrealistic or maybe even burdensome?
That pressure.
Exactly. And maybe the big one, do I feel more connected to how someone makes me feel or to who they actually are as a separate whole person?
That's a subtle but really important distinction.
It is. And for couples, if you wanted a conversation starter to explore this together, you could try asking each other something like, what was it that first drew you to me? Really think back. And do you think that initial thing still holds true today in the same way?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it can really open things up. It's a pathway to explore, Has our relationship moved beyond that initial, maybe projection-fueled attraction? Have we landed in something more grounded, more real?
What a journey, really.
Yeah.
Understanding this Jungian idea of projection, it feels like you could genuinely shift how we look at love.
Yeah.
Moving it from this unconscious drive that just happens to us to something much more conscious, deeper, and ultimately more real and sustainable. It really changes the game, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And perhaps to leave you with one final thought, a really potent quote from Carl Jung himself, something to chew on. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Wow. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's a powerful idea to sit with, isn't it? Makes you think what unconscious forces might be pulling the strings in your own relationships and what could happen if you just started to bring them into the light.